Here I am. Happy Thursday as I'm recording this. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. I do have a fairly significant programming note. I will be going out of town starting tomorrow, and I will be out until the following Friday. So a week, and I'll be traveling both Fridays. So you shan't hear from me until Monday, a week from Monday. So enjoy the break from all things me, but don't forget about me. I shall return. I think that's all I've got. Can't think of anything else. Let's get down to brass tacks. I always need to. Wish I could make that my default, so don't have to swing it around. I am testing out Melon still, so let me know if there are any quirks or anything you notice, audio, video, or otherwise. So far, I'm digging it pretty well. It's just different. Not sure if I ultimately like it better than Restream or not, but we're gonna give it a try. So, as is our want for this number, what is this? Number 35, I think. 35, I believe. OSR Reddit Roundup on the hot tab. As usual, I don't refresh these. Sometimes I do check out what's going on in the OSR between streams. So if you see something that comes up as being previously read by me, that was me doing it some days ago and not me trying to pre-do anything for this. We take them as they come. Well, let's see what we've got. I made this bleak tactical TTRPG Trespasser free open place play test. Bleak tactical. I think I'm going to leave that one alone, but I'll give it an upvote. Outside of core rules, what are the current 10 essential OSR texts? Give that a thumbs up, but I'm not going to delve into there either. Someone put out some good dark fantasy color illustrations. Sure, take an upvote. My first attempt at old school map. Take an upvote there. Caverns of Thracia, new old school essentials DM advice, tips, tricks. Question, I don't think I have anything particular. Caverns of Thracia, really, really great module. I hope maybe someone put together a guide, because I think it's one of those that could use a guide, because those old Judges Guild layouts leave a lot to be desired, and they really cram things in. Not the most, I don't want to say they're not functional, because they're certainly functional. People have played with them for ages. But I think we've learned, one, they definitely have this kind of amateur design aesthetic to it, and I just think we've learned a lot in terms of layout, in terms of information design, that it would be great if somebody went through Caverns of Thracia and kind of gave it a new, I don't want to say a new coat of paint, but just gave it some updates. Someone's probably done that. I know people put these kind of like, here's the guide to the thing. I have to imagine somewhere, somehow, someone has put together one of those for Caverns of Thracia. This might be interesting. All right, this will be a blog post. That'll be good. Never split the party, going against conventional wisdom. This was posted on Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. I will post this in to the description, into the chat. Never split the party? Question mark. Hopefully that'll show up. Posted on the tabletop lair. There we go. Posted on the tabletop lair Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. Never split the party, going against conventional wisdom. Never split the party, a phrase bandied about so much that it now surrounds us in the form of algorithmically generated t-shirts and Facebook memes. It's good advice for role-playing game neophytes. For a game master, running an RPG group is enough work as is, and splitting the players up won't make things easier. I agree novice GMs should avoid splitting the party when possible. But what about those of us with a few more campaigns under our belts? Or a few dozen more? There are some stories you can only tell by letting the player characters walk their own paths, at least for a while. I often see never split the party framed solely in terms of combat. I suspect that has to do with Dungeons & Dragons dominating the medium, but that's not to say it's exclusive to RPG's very own 800-pound gorilla. A recurring issue with Shadowrun is the pizza problem. Some variation of the idea that while Decker characters cavort in cyberspace, the rest of the players might as well go out and get dinner as they have nothing better to do. Even so, I still mostly see never split the party justified entirely by how it affects combat. In systems that are about fighting fantasy monsters or clearing dungeons, separating the party reduces both groups' effectiveness. It's sound logic if you're aiming to survive and quote unquote win, but surviving and winning doesn't always make for the best stories. That speaks to a deeper issue with the Maxim. Splitting the party might make combat more daunting, but how does that impact the less martial parts of the story? Think of the last TV show you saw where the main characters are marauding around in one cohesive unit. Big Brother doesn't count. Even the most team-centric media still makes a point of having asides and tangents for individual members. Look at Star Trek The Next Generation. The crew will be together for certain scenes, but there are plenty of B-plots, openings, and even entire episodes concerning small groupings or individual members of the cast. Specifically, look at the episode Family, where after a traumatic joining with the Borg, Captain Picard uses shore leave on Earth to visit his childhood home in France, while Worf and Wesley connect with their own roots aboard the Enterprise. Nothing says, I believe in that wisdom, interested to hear counter advice. Well, let me know what you think after the end of this, Nothing. See if you are swayed. I'm not even quite sure yet what this person is trying to say. I'm not sure that TV shows are the best analogs, but we'll keep going. We'll get it. I mean, and I'm not against splitting the party necessarily, but I'm not sure this is the tack I would take to sell it. It's a fulfilling episode that offers new depths to the characters, not just because we see them in unfamiliar surroundings, but with unfamiliar company, too. Family uses that separation to drive the episode's central conflict, too, as Picard debating his continued role as captain of the Enterprise feels far more convincing when he's absent from his ship and its crew. If other media puts, quote-unquote, splitting the party to good use, why should RPGs be the exception? While avoiding splitting the party is crucial to fighting-heavy games like D&D, the idea holds less water the further you venture beyond that. Having the party constantly attached at the hip can suck the oxygen out of the dramatic, more personal scene for a specific character or still end up reducing the rest of the party to spectators. I find myself splitting the party a lot these days. Personal conversations and conspiracy are difficult when everyone's within arm's reach. When planning my New York set Vampire the Masquerade campaign, I found myself wondering how to string a group of very different vampires together and justify their presence in the sensitive areas of rival clans and power bases without just falling into the quote-unquote superheroes with fangs trap. In the end, I gave each player their own concurrent plotline. They inhabited the same setting and big actions affected everyone, but it was only towards the very end that their paths crossed. It made navigating such a factionalized, politicking-driven setting much easier for everyone and encouraged the players to develop their characters to develop as individuals and not just as quote-unquote party members. This campaign turned out to be a success, as were previous sessions where I experimented with having the characters split off to explore personal agendas. But this approach requires a few things. First, the GM needs to be comfortable planning or improvising multiple concurrent plot lines. Perhaps more importantly, the GM also needs to know how to juggle multiple plot lines without putting too much emphasis on any one player or story thread. Watch how any good TV show or movie handles this, cutting away at opportune moments to create tension or dramatic parallels. Splitting the party does put a lot of burden on the player's shoulders, too. Not every player can handle the increased focus on their character, whether that's due to being shy, falling into quote-unquote main character syndrome, or something else. The big requirement is that your group needs to be comfortable and entertaining watching other players' stories. As with most things, a well-established table of close friends can pull that off more easily, but it's a big gamble for a newly minted group. The good news is that anyone who's been in a combat-heavy campaign is already used to waiting their turn. But make sure your table knows what they're in for first, as many only begrudgingly put up with that kind of waiting. Splitting the party can open up narrative opportunities when handled constructively and in an even-handed way. It's a tool I think experienced GMs should consider more often, and we should evaluate whether we should tell new RPG players that splitting the party can only lead to disaster and disappointment. This was posted by Matt_RPG. So nothing. Were you swayed by Mr. Matt_RPG? Or maybe I shouldn't even say Mr. Just Matt_RPG, what they said. So here's my thought. I think, yes, the big thing, which I think, unfortunately, Matt_RPG didn't spend enough time on, is the biggest hurdle over everything is simply that when you're going to have a bunch of PCs acting on their own, you're spending so much time with one player, and all the other players are sitting around watching. And I agree, with some groups, with some things, that can be exciting. As an example, when I was a player, we had a near TPK. My character was the only character to survive, and there was probably the end of that session and maybe the first half of the next session. And this was kind of sessions. I mean, they were online. play by text, actually, play by form, basically, or play by Discord, I suppose. And so we had time limits, so it was synchronous. It wasn't asynchronous. It was synchronous. But still, right during those periods, that period of time before the next batch of characters came in, everyone was watching what I was doing. It was exciting because my character was frankly running for their lives, trying to survive, make it back to the town, which they ended up doing. So there was this tension. It was interesting. People were kind of interested in seeing that. That was a very specific moment where something like that in this game worked. There was something for everybody. Everyone was kind of keenly in the mix, keenly had an interest in, oh my gosh, are we all going to be starting over? Oh, is he going to make it? What's going to happen? That's good. But ultimately, yeah, you've got a bunch of people watching somebody else play. I think for experienced GMs, for anybody, it's picking those times when it may be appropriate, both as a player and as a GM, I would say. It's all about picking the times that are appropriate for this kind of activity. Some of them where they'll bog down that it's nice to skip. Shopping. Nobody wants to really spend a bunch of time watching one player shop unless you're doing something on the side. You're looking at you're in town and they're in there talking to the shopkeeper, and you're looking at the equipment list and you're trying to gear up or you're trying to figure out your provisions. But if you're all ready to go and the other person's just there kind of shopping, you're sort of twiddling your thumbs. And so we want to cut all that stuff out as much as possible. Both as a GM, maybe tell that player, hey, look, if there's something specific that you're aiming for, just come out with it. Don't beat around the bush. We don't need to role play an hour's worth of conversation because you want to know if wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the guy has a +1 sword in the back. Just spit it out, right? With the pleasantries. Or if you're just buying stuff that's basically book price at book value, here's the book. Borrow somebody's book and do that. And let's get the show on the road. Let's move all that stuff to as much outside the lines as he can. Now, nothing says, this guy seems like he's a good GM and thinking deeply, but this blog will only resonate if why you don't split the party is combat. Right. People go to combat and say, oh, don't, like from a GM's perspective, I don't care whether you split the party in combat or not. It's just more likely to kill you because I'm not changing the encounters. If 5 of you go into the dungeon and in that first room, there's 2d8 gnolls chilling, and 5 of you go in, I'm rolling 2d8 gnolls chilling. If say, okay, you had 5, so 3 of you decide, oh, wait a minute, we're gonna go talk to that druid that we saw in that glade about a half mile back. We're gonna go do that, and the other 2 impatiently they're impatient, and they say, screw it, we're going in. I'm still rolling 2d8 gnolls. So if you split the party, you're communicating, you're communicating something as between your players. Hey, don't go in there, and if you do, you're kind of more screwed, and that's fair enough. That's kind of up to them. I think it's still probably good wisdom. You're going into dangerous places like you are in games like D&D, then yeah, that's probably still a good thing you want to do when you need to. Sometimes you need to. You often split the party in some sense all the time. When you send the scout ahead, we were talking about yesterday in Errant, okay, the scout, the thief, whomever is 120 feet ahead of you in another room, you've kind of split the party, but it's for a useful purpose. But you just need to be thoughtful about it. Now, nothing says, I still think don't split the party is good advice, but it doesn't mean you should never do it. Running a whole campaign where splitting the party is essential to the game is interesting. Yes, and I think it's very much going to depend. His example really depends on running kind of a social game, ultimately, a game of politics, a game of factions, in which you're not really concerned about, is someone going to stab me in the back right now? Or maybe you are, but it's more of an assassination type thing as opposed to, D&D style, 12 gnolls are going to jump out of the broom closet and you want to have your whole gang there as opposed to being there by yourself when they jump out of the broom closet. The further you get away from that style of game, you're getting into politics, you're getting into kind of court dramas, things like that, then sure, you can have maybe a party, a masquerade, a ball, a congress, anything, and players can be going out doing other things, or they can be in city and someone's goes to talk to the mayor and someone else is at the police station and someone else is doing that. And they're all getting different information that they're going to use. I'm going to go talk to the cop who discovered the crime, see if they know something that can help me. Oh, where are you going? I got some pull with the mayor, so I'm going to talk to the mayor. Okay, you can do all that stuff differently and it works, but it's very much situational. Using TV shows to me is a bad idea because the one thing you don't have on a TV shows, when they cut away to Picard from the rest of the Enterprise, we don't You don't split screen and watch the rest of the Enterprise just kind of twiddling their thumbs. It's cut away. No one's time is wasted. In the game, you don't cut away. The time is still there. That 20 minutes you spend on Picard, the players playing Worf and Wesley, Crusher, and everyone else, they're still sitting there. That's not true on an edited TV show. Maybe it's true when they're filming it, and then whatever, the actors go in their trailers, they go read a book or they go grab lunch or blah blah blah. But on the TV show, all that time you just get to wave it away, which to me makes it a really poor example for using the table when the biggest thing is that everyone has to sit there through the time. And then it says, confirmed, in my world, gnolls act as clowns in a tiny car. Yes, I didn't say how big that broom closet is, but maybe that would be great. Clowns as gnolls or gnolls as clowns. None of them says, also, Matt says, quote, if other media puts splitting the party to good use, why should RPGs be the exception? And then nothing replying, tabletop RPGs aren't a type of media, and thinking of them as one can cause issues. Yeah, it's one of those things, right? It's good, and I will often bring up media examples, but this is not a good one precisely for the reason that media can make things invisible that are very visible to when you're actually playing them. And in this case, the time that you're spending on one player or on one fraction of the party isn't something you can just cut away and it's like no time was spent. Like, no, all that time was spent. Still, I think, I almost think he's fighting the wrong fight a little bit. Like, I think the thing that's most you have to deal with really at the core is the time aspect. And he gives that kind of short shrift in the piece, but maybe it'll be different. And then Ian says, it's a little different when the actors are the audience. Well, that too. But, having spent a tiny bit of time on a film set when I volunteered for kind of a short film, there's a lot of downtime behind the scenes, and people are just getting something to eat, taking looking over their lines, whatever. But, if you looked at it, like, not in the finished version of Star Trek episode, but the filming of it and everything, it would feel a lot more, you'd feel a lot more of like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of time to kind of make this stuff happen. And its time is the biggest factor. So what I would think is saving the party or splitting the party for both GMs and players can be something that needs to be done. The fiction is going to really determine, I think, if you need to do it. And if you do, you should do it. But don't be flippant when you're splitting the party, right? Just be thoughtful about that choice. Okay. Let's see. I will upvote this. World of Mere Monsters. I've reviewed a couple of his books. I've done some read-throughs on there. They're good. I forget if I did Monsters of Phalan, which one I did, but they're good. So I'll upvote that. Mutations from Mana Radiation on Planet Grok. That sounds interesting. All right, I will post this. One thing I liked in Restream is it didn't post the when I would do things like pull links and stuff. It wouldn't post that. You wouldn't see it in the stream share. I don't believe, unless I'm just missing something. And now they get shown. Maybe there's a way they could get rid of that. All right, so let me just typing out this link. Hey, Wanchola. Wanchola says, in the RPGs I have been in, when the GM focuses on individual players, it's a good time to go to the bathroom, get a drink, food, etc. within the game. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? And if you can make it short enough and sweet enough that someone can do that and then come back and it's wrapping up, that's great. It's kind of like, what do you have to do when it's more than 30 seconds or 5 minutes or whatever? So Ian says, I'm 100% on board with splitting the party, but it's a juggling act and a TV show is not a direct corollary. Right, because the TV show, you don't really have to juggle anything. It just kind of happens. It happens. Okay, so we have the D20 table. So these are mutations from mana radiation. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Mana radiation makes me think some kind of magic. You've been subjected to maybe just, I don't know, raw, unfettered sorceress energy. So we have a couple of columns here, 4 columns, a thing, So it looks like an adjective, an object, another adjective, and an object. These are cool. These are always fun. You can always use it for something. So we can get something like, let's see, a malleable claw and radiating pustules. Those lovely radiating pustules. An uncontrollable torso and hinged gills. A watercolored face and drooping flesh. So if you need some, did I upvote this? No, I did not. I will do that. If you need some mutations, a hypersensitive horn, metallicized legs, or metallized legs, sloughing memories, sprouting fungus. Ugh, that doesn't sound very good. Photosynthetic secretions. Yummy. All right. Well, there's no context. Oh, here we go. So this is from this is this is a nice thing. I've seen this a few times. Somebody posting essentially a part of their something useful, but also something that hints. I was just wondering, like, I don't know any kind of I don't know anything about this thing, Grok, and of course it's on Kickstarter. Also looks like it's on itch. So this is taken from Grok. And Grok is an adventure role-playing game where you assume the role of an adventurer in a gonzo world of boundless plausibility and use your ingenuity and resourcefulness to overcome strange and perilous threats. Inspired by the core tenets of old-school adventure games, Grok was influenced by greater works such as Cortex Prime, Electric Bastionland, Fate Core, Freeform Universal, Index Card RPG, Knave, Numenera, Savage Worlds, Shadow of the Demon Lord, Tech Noir, Troika, and Vagabonds of Dyfed. Whew, there's a lot. All right, so it's going on Kickstarter. I will post this link also. If that table, which was fun, had you itching for more, then head over to itch and scratch that itch. Or I guess you can also head over to itch and get the Kickstarter link. Hey, Ovaltine Patrol. Juan Cholo says, kind of reminds me of Magic Corruption from Dungeon Crawl Classics. Another thing says, does watercolored mean the color of water or like a watercolored painting? I took it to mean a watercolored painting, but it could be. No, nothing says migratory organs. That's going to be a bad day for whoever rolls it. Yes, indeedly do. But there it is, Grok on itch. And like I said, I appreciate when some of these previews, people will just put their stuff up. Hey, put up a little table, put up something that people can use. You can grab it and use it and think nothing else about Grok or this. You like the way this sounds and you want more, then you can go check it out. Let me give their comment, Lester Tortoise, an upvote as well. Get back to it. How am I doing on time? I'm doing fine. Doing fine on time. Okay, Matt Finch is who I talked to once. You can see somewhere back in the archives on YouTube, I have, I think it's an audio interview with Matt Finch. Nice gentleman. Maybe I could try to get him. I will see if I can, maybe I can hook up with Matt Finch again to talk about his expanded Tome Adventure design. It's going to Kickstarter. I don't know if it started or not yet. This one time at Bandit Camp, I think that's an image. I don't know if I need to read that. Oh, here we go. 1d10 more carousing mishaps from Eldritch Fields. We can check that out. Let's see. Let's get this in here. 1d10 carousing mishaps. This was posted. All right, so thankfully for me anyway, the post is in English because the date is not, but 24th, which is today. 1d10 more carousing mishaps for city-based campaigns. The author must be at the bottom because it's not up here. This is posted on the Eldritch Fields blog on Blogspot. 10 more carousing mishaps can be combined with the Three Musketeers table or used in any fantasy or historical fantasy urbane campaign. I don't know what the Three Musketeers table is, but it looks like it's more carousing things, issues, something, mishaps. All right, we've got 10. Well, I'll read a couple of these. During your nighttime escapades, you discover a shortcut leading through the hidden alleys, rooftops, dark sewers. Once this session, you can lead the party through this shortcut to any place in the city 10 times faster than it would take normally. However, each member of the party must roll a d6. The character who rolls the highest takes that much damage from an unforeseen attack or mishap along the way. I like that one a lot. I definitely like that one. This one I might actually see. The thing is, this is a really I wouldn't even call this a mishap, really. I mean, that's a bonus, right? I look at that and saying, I mean, because I look at this one and I want to turn this into a mechanic that, hey, you can do that. You can wander around the city, spend the day or evening or whatever, spend one city turn, whatever you want to call it, roaming around the city, and then you just get this. And that's for spending that action. This is what you get. Hey, you can get there X times faster than it would take normally. But the D6 damage is harsh because that could kill somebody at low level. So I might want to make it maybe a couple of damage, 1 or 2. I'm not sure. I kind of like the idea of doing that, but at the same time, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die. Not from that. I want to kill you up front and personally. I don't want you killed through something like that. But I like it. But I actually would not call that a mishap. That to me is like, ooh, there's a little mechanic peeking out from under there about something to do in settlements, or at least settlements of a certain size. First, you just talk to a stranger in a bar, a mysterious stranger with a mesmerizing gaze. Next thing you know, their fangs sink into your neck. Luckily, the assailant flees before sucking you dry. You take d6 damage from blood loss. Anytime you encounter a vampire, there's a 1 in 6 chance, cumulative, if you roll this mishap more than once, it is this particular fiend. All right, so this one essentially get bitten by a vampire. On the one hand, I like it. It's kind of fun. It's got that problem that I feel like a lot of these type of things have, in which the player is not given a chance to do anything. So I understand it, right? You meet up with a stranger, but the player is going to say, shouldn't I have gotten a save? I'd like to roll to see if maybe the mesmerizing gaze doesn't work, especially if you're, depending on how your vampires and mesmerizing gazes work, especially if normally by the book, if you're doing this a regular encounter wise, that you'd get some kind of save. So that at first it's like, okay, you're kind of railroaded in this position where you got bitten by a vampire, maybe doing a little bit of an end around. Oh yeah, well normally you get a save, but we're just gonna play it like you failed automatically. Not that keen on that part. And then on the other hand, right? So then the assailant flees before sucking you dry. Okay, you can look at this one hand and say you're incapacitated. Fair enough. And then you can't stop them. But if you're not, and depending on how you read that, how you want to do it, then again, can I not do something on their way out? Maybe I'm a magic user and I've got a spell, or I'm a cleric and I want to try to destroy because they just sucked my blood. Whatever it is, like, do I not get any kind of reply? And then they're not really covering the fact that, do you have vampirism now? Do you get save versus that? Like, how does that work? Juan Cholo says, carousing mishap. When your drunk bard starts the night hitting on the elf sorceress and wakes up married to the half-orc warrioress. Yes, that would certainly be an interesting turn of events for that bard. So I like it, but I don't know that I love if I love the kind of mishaps that are sort of, this is where, and I feel like this term is really overused, but that kind of the bogeyman of player agency comes up. Like, how much agency are you taking away from these players when you want to give them a mishap that normally they might get 3 or 4 or 5, 6 chances to respond to some element of it, but you're just going to go zip from A to Z and bypass their ability to do something. And I know as a player that always irks me when there's something that normally, or in other circumstances, I don't get a chance to respond, but now because it's just a thing, like, here you go, and they just kind of wrap it up and kind of toss it to you like it's the whole thing's finished, and you just think, well, especially when it's hurting you, you're going, kind of feel like I should have had a chance. Should have had a chance, but I didn't have a chance. Another thing says, being bitten by a vampire is a huge deal. Seems like you were leaving a lot on the table, narratively and fun-wise, just using it in a mishap table. I'm mixed with you on that one. Yes, I think that it is a huge deal. I don't think you're necessarily leaving it on the table because this is just the opener. A vampire shows up, sucks your blood. I think the thing is that maybe I agree with you is that it's just not on this table. What do you do with all these consequences of being bitten by a vampire? This says nothing. It almost suggests nothing. Oh, you don't get vampirism, whatever. Whereas I feel like that's where you want to pick it up and say, okay, yeah, you were bitten by this vampire. What does it mean? What are the interesting changes that are taking place? If anything, can you resist for a time? Who is this vampire that bit you? Now they're clearly going to be at least a minor player and stuff that's going on. It's all kind of left, right? Unfortunately, the table, which I understand because it's just a mishap table, it's not here's a whole vampire adventure arc table, isn't giving you all that. I'm not saying that so it really, I feel like it's not leaving it on the table, it's just kind of leaving it up to you, except for the couple things where it doesn't, I think by implication, it's just kind of putting under the rug. Yeah, I think you got to take that stuff out from under the rug and put it center stage. You've just been bitten by a freaking vampire that got away from you. Now what? Now we're going to roll some dice every night to see if you start getting the sweats, to see if you start looking at everybody like you want to suck their blood. What else is going on? How does vampirism work in this world? Is there like a mental thing? Can they talk to you telepathically? Can they control you if they come near you? Do you have this urge to do something, right? How is all this stuff happening? I kind of like that this just shows up in the mishap table because it's one of those great kind of twists, those sort of things to shake the board. I like to think of things, you have oftentimes we end up with this very clear, neat board with everything that's going on, and then something comes up and just shakes it up. And whatever you happen to be doing and a vampire was just thrown in the mix is definitely a shake the board kind of moment. And I like that. But hopefully if this happens in your game, you do something more with it and just be like, I don't know, they might show up later. And if they do, fine. If not, let's see. Terrence says, dang, was having internet issues. What did I miss? Everything, Terrence. Everything. Wanchola says, Pendragon had a good version of this with a feasting events table. It would randomly have an event happen to a character, and then the character gets to respond using your list of passions as save rolls. Ooh, I like that. I got to read Against Mid forever. Right? I'm a huge Pendragon fan. It's on my bucket list of games I have not yet played that I hope to play before I pass this mortal coil. All right, let's do a couple more. You turn a corner, witness a masked man stabbing a foreign sailor to the death. The killer looks at you, then drops a pouch on the ground and says in a hoarse voice, "You've seen nothing," then leaps over a wall and disappears into the night. Pouch contains 200 silver pieces. Right, so interesting. The leaps over the wall and disappears in the night. You just know that players are going to argue about that. Well, I want to chase him. So as the GM, I hope if you roll this, you use it at your table and you roll it, you'll give them a chance and you won't just say, oh, sorry, they disappeared into the night. Unless they're magic and something else happens, they drop a little smoke bomb and literally disappear. That's fine. 200 silver for a stabbing. I mean, this is kind of cool, but it feels like it's I don't want to say too much, but it feels like more than a mishap because it's kind of an adventure hook. I mean, I could literally see a whole adventure starting with you witness a killing in an alley. There's a pouch that's got 200 silver pieces. Maybe there's something weird about the pouch you could have some fun with. Is it a local currency? Is it from a different land? What's going on there? Is the pouch of a weird design? Who is this sailor? Is it like the sailor carrying the Maltese Falcon who stumbles around bloody and then falls down the alley? Did they have something? Does it clue to something? It's I feel like it's more meaningful than just a mishap. Oops, kind of mishap. And nothing agrees with me. That's true. This mishap table seems more like a significant plot development table. Yeah, definitely. All right, last one we'll do for these. A fortune teller reveals a source of imminent danger. Roll d6. 1 blades, 2 fire, 3 poison, 4 height, 5 water, 6 black magic. This session, the first time you are threatened by the type of danger rolled, you automatically fail your save or automatically get hit and take double damage. Ouch. So I would go the other way with this one. This one, or maybe, so it's cool. The fortune teller is cool. And I dig what they're doing here. The kind of things that are coming up on this list are fairly generic, so that you could probably find a way to work it into the session. Okay, blades, tons of, almost most weapons have a blade of some sort, so good, got there. I mean, you could even, blade could easily be cutting edge, like an axe, blade of an axe, a blade of something, like whatever, right? Axes, swords, knives. I don't know. You could probably figure out in spears, or some kind of halberd type pole arm type thing. All kinds of stuff have blades. Fire, another easy one. Poison, maybe a bit trickier one depending on what's going on. Height, probably a bit trickier too, but you can always figure out some way to make it work if you were dead set on making it work. Water is kind of interesting, because how do you make that a danger? So that one might be tricky. And then black magic, again, pretty easy. Any spell that's, I suppose, put up against you or thrown at you, you could be considered black magic. So real easy. Old Jim Joel says blades of grass. And Terrence says 20 gold pieces to buy my silence. I chase them down just to negotiate a higher price. Exactly. But you know what? They've disappeared in the night, so you can't find them, Terrence. But now this part. So to me, I look at it and you go, this session, the first time you're threatened by that type of danger rolled, you automatically fail your save or automatically get hit and take double damage. But this makes no sense to me in the aspect of you've been warned. Wouldn't it be something like, because you've been forewarned? Okay, let's just use an example. The fortune teller reveals you will be hurt by, flip some kind of tarot card, whatever. Height. You will be a great height. Will do something to you. I don't know. However they would say it. Beware great heights tonight, adventurer. Okay. Now you're fighting on top of a rooftop, and boy, that what great timing or improv by the GM to get your fight up on a rooftop. But you're up there, and now the enemy is going to try to shove you. Maybe you're fighting some thieves. They're going to try to shove you off the roof. To me, the fact that the fortune teller just gave you that warning, and remember, we're talking in a fantastic world where magic and things like fortunes, we know that kind of can be true. It's more than just in our world. Well, some people kind of believe in it, but it's like, no, it's like these things could very well be true. There is a good chance, at least, might even say more than a 50% chance, that what this person telling me is legit. And now I'm on a rooftop. I think that now I'm threatened by the thing of this, that I would get a better save, that I would get bolstered because I was warned. Why would you go to a fortune teller to get warned about imminent danger, and then it makes it worse? So I completely and utterly disagree on the second half of that mishap. But I appreciate what it's trying to do. Juan Cholo says, maybe for mishaps, have things like a character gets a tattoo or owes a big bar tab or gets an unfortunate rash, he declared. Wakes up in the stocks for a day, something minor, embarrassing, but funny. Yeah, I think you could have a bunch of those. I mean, these are good. Like, don't get me wrong. I like these. I mean, I would change maybe the way some of these work. But yeah, these are a lot more important to me than just, oops, a little mishap. I agree with you. Things like you woke up and you're in the stocks. Yeah, your bar tab's too much, and so now you have to get robbed. You get robbed of something. Yeah, something like that. Those are kind of mishaps. They're kind of maybe have minor. I mean, I think of the word mishap, I'm thinking kind of like a minor consequence. Oh, you took a point of damage. Oh, okay, your coin purse was robbed. You accidentally did something. You've made a minor enemy somewhere. Now, you've made an enemy of Rolo on the docks. So now if you come around the docks, beware of Rolo, that kind of thing. It's got a little bit of a consequence, not too much. Some of them are kind of minor. So some of these are sort of life-altering, campaign-altering kind of stuff, which is great, but just more than, I feel like just more than what I would think of as a mishap. Ian says, forewarning gives advantage on save. Maybe something akin to 5e divination cleric where you get swappable d20 pre-rolled. I mean, maybe something. But I would just definitely make it a good thing. But I feel like they're doing it bad because it's supposed to be a mishap. But in this case, is it a mishap to get your fortune told like that? And then Terrence says, beware the dark peddler of funnel cakes. He will overcharge you. Overcharge. Yeah, watch out for the funnel cake guy. But yes, I definitely think that and that one as another one that I would put in, take it off of mishaps and put into something that I could spend in a large enough city. Like, does this settlement have a fortune teller? If so, they can get that and then get a boon, spending some amount of money and get this kind of minor boon. Maybe give them advantage the first time that comes into play. That, to me, I would totally turn that into having like, oh yeah, there might be a fortune teller in town. And then Ian says it's a mishap because now the DM is going to make sure you get stabbed in the middle of the night. Yeah, pretty much. Maybe. And then Nothing says, depends how fate works in your world. Is a prophecy a warning to help protect you or a curse torturing about a harm you are powerless to stop? I suppose that's true. Nothing. That's true. I just tend to look at it. If you're going to use the phrase forewarning, right? That is the words that they used. Forewarning. If you're going to forewarn somebody of something, then I think that should have an outcome. You could probably change it to something else, and then make it more of a mishap. Could be. Could be. Okay, let's see. OSC Classic, blah, blah, blah. Another stock art sale. Okay. How to create a weird setting? I'm thinking that's a question, so I don't have anything. Mecha hack attribute question. I have no idea what mecha hack is, but I imagine it involves mechas. Black hack or some kind of hack plus mechas. I don't know. What modules / adventures are the most reusable and easy for new players? I have no idea. I mean, something like Keep on the Borderlands is reusable because you can always just scramble things around. Or maybe Isle of Dread because you could do the kind of the same thing. But I don't think those are easy. I don't know. I don't know. I probably wouldn't give a hex crawl to a new. And even though Keep on the Borderlands, I think technically isn't really a hex crawl. But it's got that element of sort of a good place and a bad place and some wilderness in between. I'm not sure. I mean, beyond the ones like, was it Tomb of the Serpent Kings that's kind of made precisely as a learning tool. What else do we got? Oh, this might be interesting. All right, from Prismatic Wasteland. I tend to like their stuff, at least reading it. I tried to suss out the true motives of the cult of chaotic evil in the Keep on the Borderlands. All right, this will be good. I will post this link into the chat. Let's see. Conspiracy in the Borderlands. Ian says, don't use fortunes like you will die and replace it with you will be attacked in the night. Yeah, you probably shouldn't say things like you will die. Oh, Juan Cholo says, for starting modules, B1 Into the Unknown. That's a good one. Okay, if you want to follow along at home, we are at the Prismatic Wasteland blog, Conspiracy in the Borderlands, posted on February 22nd. The origins of the cult of evil chaos. The Keep on the Borderlands begins with a section of advice to novice referees in which Gary Gygax tasks the referee with being able to play, quote, the noble clergyman on one hand and the vile monster on the other, end quote. But in the Keep on the Borderlands, the clergyman is the vile monster. I have previously made the case that the way the tribes of monstrous humanoids and the chaotic raiders could be viewed as propaganda from the perspective of the Keep's denizens, and that such depiction is not supported by the structure of the adventure. But the structure and text of Keep on the Borderlands does agree on the real villains of the module, the cult of evil chaos. The cult of evil chaos dwells in our midst. In the module's detailed description of the Keep and its inhabitants, Gygax does not hide the ball that the established religion of the Keep contains a sinister element. We are introduced to a jovial priest, either at his private apartment or in the tavern, who is well regarded by everyone at the Keep. He is a fine companion, an excellent listener, and a tolerant believer. There's only one person in the Keep who distrusts him, the curate, the most influential person in the Keep, except for the Castellan. However, even the curate's own acolytes think very highly of the priest and will say so to any who ask about him. The priest keeps his true beliefs secret. While the priest will encourage adventurers to go to the Caves of Chaos and even accompany them, what a generous spirit. A parenthetical reveals his true nature. Note, the priest and his acolytes are chaotic and evil, being in the Keep to spy and defeat those seeking to gain experience by challenging the monsters in the Caves of Chaos. Once in the caves, the priest will use his spells as needed to hinder and harm the adventurers. Betrayal will always occur during a crucial encounter with monsters. Then that is the parenthetical quoted from the module itself. The module is improved by assuming the cult's treachery is behind every misfortune. For instance, one of the rumors in the Keep's rumor table could be considered poor design without this context. The false rumor in question is the Bree-Ark is a goblin language for we surrender. Later in the adventure, we learn that Bree-Ark is actually a goblin insult similar to Hey Rube. In a conversation with Gus L. of the All Dead Generations blog, he argued that, hilarious as it is, the curmudgeon in me calls it bad design. It's a false rumor with no way to know if it's false either extrinsically or through research. Also, it is a false rumor that actively harms the player characters. It's corrosive to trust and discourages rumor gathering. While these are good points, and I agree that as bad design is presented in the text, this bad rumor has an easy fix if the cult is incorporated. My assumption is that the rumor originates from the cult of evil chaos as yet another attempt to get adventurers killed in their ventures into the caves of chaos. I would foreground the source of this rumor so that when it backfires, hopefully spectacularly, it would tip off clever players that the priest is no true friend. With this tweak, the rumor still gives you no useful information about the goblins, but does give some intel about the cult of evil chaos. So one thing I'll add here is you can have people who might speak goblin. And if someone speaks goblin and they hear the rumor that Bree-Ark is goblin language for resurrender, they'll know that it's false. And I think, I don't know that I agree that it's a false rumor. It isn't, I don't know if it's false either extrinsically and through research, because you could technically ask a goblin who you befriend or talk to if it's true or not. Right? So you can figure it out if you really want to. And the fact that it is false leads you, I think, on the one hand, you could say, yeah, it discourages you from rumor gathering, I suppose, but it also lets you know that rumors aren't all true. So I don't know, I'm kind of torn. But I think if somebody gets that rumor and it is false and they go, hey, wait a minute, who told us that? Then yeah, using the cult at some point in there is good. No, nothing's, oh, oh, no, nothing says, you will die. The cursed fortune we all get at our birth. Now I'm sad. Yeah, I'm gonna pretend I didn't read that. No, nothing. Don't bring me down. I don't need to be brought down today. Okay, what is the cult's goal other than being chaotic evil? The module doesn't answer this directly and instead requires the referee to infer their sinister motives. It tells us the priest is there to, quote, spy and defeat adventurers headed to the cult of chaos and will go so far as to join them to betray them in the caves. But why? Presumably, it is to protect his fellow travelers in the caves of chaos. The final area of the caves is the Shrine of Evil Chaos. They have constructed a nice little temple for themselves with gem-set thrones, mosaic checkerboard floors, huge tapestries, domed ceilings, and, naturally, a sizable army of undead. Presumably, it is the cult that poses a danger to the overwhelming military might of the keep, not the ragtag tribes of monstrous humanoids making their homes in the valley. Their total forces, 36 zombies, 32 skeletons, 1 white, 4 acolytes, 1 first, sorry, let me do that again. 36 zombies, 32 skeletons, 1 white, 4 acolytes, 4 adepts, a torturer, and an evil priest. Quite a threat to the keep with its 8 unarmored lackeys, 80 guardsmen, 68 men-at-arms, 30 war horses, 12 heavy cavalrymen, 18 medium cavalrymen, 4 crossbowmen, 3 acolytes, 2 corporals, 2 sergeants, 2 captains, the bailiff, the curate, and the castellan. To win an outright siege, the cult would need to play its cards exactly right by allying with some of the monster tribes, who don't get along generally, so they would need to pick the right ones, and turning as many of the dead keep soldiers into undead reinforcements as possible. Even then, it might be a coin toss, but sounds like a neat asymmetric wargame scenario. The cult surely must have a better plan than the assault on the keep implied by the background section of the module. And the partridge in the pear tree, says Brian Smith. Hello, Brian Smith. And this is true. And I would even think that with the undead that's there, it would be hard pressed to get into that keep. They got cavalry to charge out. They got plenty of people to man the keep, and undead are probably not good at breaching keep defenses. Sure, they can bang on that door all day and all night, but you're going to need something more intelligent to construct siege kind of things. Can you even surround the keep adequately to put in a siege? I don't know. It would be undead or tough. I mean, granted, they don't sleep, so you could put them around and just have them wandering there, standing there all day and all night, looking around for people trying to escape. But I think with all that, reading all that out, I would put my odds on the keep. Unless there was, treachery from within. The cult's secret plan is hidden in a throwaway line at the end of the module. The final room of the dungeon is the prison of the Medusa. Once you push past the frustratingly common and gross Gygaxian trope of the sexy woman is evil and will trick you, Gygax describes this scantily clad female, a fair maiden, obviously. Oops, lost my camera there. There we go. Well, look at that. So it looked like, I have to say, when Restream kind of crashes, it takes everything down with it. This one, if all that happens is camera gets bounced for a sec, I'll take it. I'm back, Brian. Just there for a second. Gone for a second. Okay. Once you push past the frustratingly common and gross Gygaxian trope of the sexy woman is evil and will trick you, you learn why a Medusa is being held captive in the first place. Not being above such things, the cleric had plans for removing the snakes, blinding it, and then eventually sacrificing it at a special rite to a demon. What is the fail state of Keep on the Borderlands? I like when adventurers are, I think they mean adventures. I like when adventures are explicit in what happens if the adventurers do not intervene. It makes the player's choices more impactful when the world responds not only to their actions, but their inactions. I am not a fan of adventures where the villains act like wax sculptures, waiting their turn when the heroes aren't present. For instance, in Keep on the Shadowfell, a 4th edition homage to Keep on the Borderlands, when the player characters reach the final villain, it is always just so happens that the PCs have arrived in time to stop him from completing his evil ritual, no matter what detours they took in getting there or how much time has passed. I prefer instead for adventurers to have a default fail state if the player characters don't intervene. In Keep on the Borderlands, that fail state is that the cult completes whatever ritual they were attempting, and with the help of the demon or demons, are able to overwhelm the keep. Chaos reigns. Let's see. Bob Mostel. Hey, Bob says, thought we were going to have to mount an expedition to rescue Tot. No, I'm here. Just like, it's a browser. So Restream and this one as well, Melon, are browser based. And so I think funky things can happen. It could even be Windows' fault. Maybe it's not their fault at all. But this has a much more elegant kind of fail than Restream did. So easier to just get back. Whereas when Restream would fail, it tended to cause mass chaos. And yes, as Brian says, I did just cast Blink. And then Null Terminated. Hey, Null Terminated says, the discussion of false rumors reminds me of an article I recently read about making the same rumor show up 4 times in a table with varying degrees of truth. That's cool too. Especially if you get, multiple people can put together different things. If multiple people get different versions of the rumor, you can try to sift. It should be, hopefully, when you get a few of them, you'll figure that they can't all be true, but there's some elements that are true. You can try to find that through line. It's also another reason we're thinking of mechanics when you're in the settlement is to try to not just, hey, you show up, here's rumors, but that as a specific thing that you can do. Spend the day combing for rumors, then you can get so many, right? More than just the one per party member that you usually kind of default at the beginning of an adventure, and then you've got data you can use. But you have to be aware that some of them could be false. They're rumors. They're not truths, right? You're getting rumors, you're not getting truths. Truths. After the Caves of Chaos. My upcoming adventure, Barkeep on the Borderlands, takes place in the same implied setting of the Keep on the Borderlands, but a couple centuries after the events described in the module. This necessitated some noodling on my part to determine what happened in those intervening centuries. Because there's so many ways the players could approach Keep on the Borderlands, I can only present one version of the future. For instance, in one of Nick of the Papers Pencils blogs runs, Nick of the Papers Pencils blogs run of Keep on the Borderlands, the players made common cause with the Medusa and helped her take over the whole valley. She's been ruling it with an iron fist for 3 years now. While that's interesting, my hypothetical future is a less drastic change. Instead, the players foiled the cult's summoning ceremony by uniting the orc tribes and staging an assault on the shrine of evil chaos. But the priest from the keep, who accompanied these heroes, did not reveal his hand so soon. He tried to undermine their plans at every turn. When they figured it out, they left him for dead in an owlbear's den. Through cunning and demonic miracles, the priest survived to witness the annihilation of his sect. The priest then trapped the adventurers in the cave where they would eventually starve to death. The cleric and a traitorous thief who was one of the adventurers returned, wounded, to the keep. There, the priest spun a tale of the adventurer's noble sacrifice. He settled himself in the keep and reestablished the cult. When the curate died of mysterious circumstances, the priest was positioned to be the new number 2. You are number 6. The cult is still one of the primary antagonistic forces in the keep, but their machinations are only ever half observed, usually felt through an eerie sense of deja vu, and never discussed outright. Let's see, this stuff, are we more interested in this? This seems to be more about this new adventure, but I suppose I'll keep going. Their initial attempt at a dark ritual was stopped, but they haven't given up hopes. Instead, they slowly consolidated power. After receiving the credit for ridding the Caves of Chaos, for riding, I think, ridding the caves of their chaos. The keep began the Raves of Chaos celebration. Whoa, the Raves of Chaos. Cue the glow sticks and where the ecstasy will flow like wine. A helpful tool for recruiting for the cult. The cult has also entrenched itself as a close advisor to the Castellan and later the monarch when the keep became a monarchy. When the monarch established the quasi-parliament, the cult quickly worked to finance the most influential parliamentarians. As the keep expanded its borders, the cult grew within like a cancer. The cult of today no longer contents itself with planning false rumors or summoning demons. It sets its goals much higher. The most successful cults are essentially real estate ventures. The cult of chaotic evil is no exception. In recent years, they purchased a plot of land in the entertainment district of the keep and constructed upon it a multi-story nightclub. This attracts new penitents and new victims. Beneath the nightclub, the cult's leadership has recreated its old shrine. They seek to open a portal into the plane of negative vibes, oh boy, where they could summon enough undead soldiers to topple not only the keep's regime, but the entirety of the realms of law. The monarch lies dying, and the cult sees its chance. All is working according to plan. Our Lady of the Sacred Speakeasy. Well, all right. When you get to the Raves of Chaos and the nightclub and the plane of negative vibes, not quite my jam, but I dig it. I dig it. I mean, the part about I guess the main part of the article of the blog post, basically thinking through, because it is mostly implied and kind of left up to you, sort of what the motives are for the villains, in this case, the Cult of Evil Chaos. I think it's good. And I think these are the kind of things I think that maybe aren't stressed enough with any kind of game master running some kind of adventure, is not only to read it and get the kind of, okay, well, here's how the rooms are going to flow, whatever, but thinking about, well, what are these things doing? Why is the cult here? Thinking through these things of, okay, there's a priest here who's bad in the keep. Now, the content isn't specifically telling me, beyond a few things, what this priest and his evil acolytes in the keep are doing, but I can infer some things, but that should be my jumping off point. Okay, well, how do I want them to be? That way I'm kind of, not only am I sort of prepped for it, but I can actively add that in, because I think having those things in there will make it a much more dynamic, interesting kind of situation that your players are thrown in. As stuff gets to be uncovered, maybe they find, you could start to plant things. Oh, in this treasure pile is a letter that never got sent, or something happened, so it didn't end up going to someone at the keep. You don't know who it is, but you know that there's someone at the keep who is a conspirator with somebody at the caves. All this kind of fun things you can happen. Has somebody seen someone from the keep leaving at weird hours or coming back at strange hours, or things like that? A lot of fun you can have. And it's always good to know why your villains are doing the things they do, so that, like they say, it's nice to have that fail state. It's nice to think about what happens if the players don't succeed. What are they up to, and how does that lead then to more adventures? Let's see. Juan Cholo says, would the Raves of Chaos have prismatic spray shot out in time with the beat? One could only hope so. And then Terrence says, not sure I want to go to that foam party. Absolutely. And then another thing says, open a nightclub, plane of negative vibes. This suddenly got weird. Yes, it did. Suddenly, it took a turn. But yeah. And then Juan Cholo says, Otto's irresistible pogoing. Ooh, boy. Yeah, it definitely, Otto's irresistible dance in full effect at this particular party. All right, folks. We're at the top of the hour, so I must bid you all adieu. If you can give a thumbs up on your way out, I'd appreciate it. If you find yourself in here and not subscribing would help me out. It doesn't really hurt you, so I'd appreciate that too. Remember, program note, I will be gone for a week starting tomorrow, so you will not see me. Maybe I'll throw up some shorts or something like that. I don't know, just if I get moments just where I want to toss something out. But I'm going to be on mostly radio silence as I am on vacation, so have a good one. Don't forget about me. I will be back in short order, but have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.